J'ai retrouvé la momie de Ramsès à la naissance.
Vous permettez que je me fasse un thé?
Faites comme chez vous.
Although the world often feels evil, let us always be good people who spread kindness, joy, and love to others every day. Keep your spirits up for those of you who are struggling. Enjoy your break and happy watching. One night in 1910, in Paris, a middle-aged man named Ferdinand was seen on his way home after a long day at work. Drunk and in a hurry to urinate, Ferdinand suddenly stopped in front of a monument and relieved himself there. However, when he was almost done, a strange light suddenly shone around him, frightening him and making him run away.
Les visions de Ferdinand Choupard.
As it turned out, the light came from the residence of a metaphysical expert named Professor Joseph. It was known that Joseph had decades of experience in the field, and many people even believed that he was capable of using witchcraft. In addition, Joseph has extensive knowledge of ancient Egypt and firmly believes in life after death. In addition, he is currently researching and exploring telepathy. Secretly, Joseph is experimenting to hatch a 135-million-year-old pterosaur egg stored in a national museum. In the end, he managed to hatch the egg. However, due to his negligence, before he brought the pterosaur home, the pterosaur flew towards the highway. As a result, the pterosaur caused a fatal accident in a passing car. Ferdinand witnessed the incident and immediately reported it to the police. In his report, he explained in detail how the giant bird ended up causing the accident. To prevent the public from panicking, police officers tried to keep the information a secret. However, somehow, the news spread so fast that it caused panic. Many people decided to stop their activities for fear that the pterosaur might attack them. Moreover, in response to several reports from the public, French President Armand immediately ordered the country's police force to prioritize this case.
Vous pouvez compter sur moi, Monsieur le Président.
Cette affaire de ptérodactyle me paraît sérieuse.
Oui.
Cette affaire doit être classée au plus vite cheval.
Traîne en longueur. Le Président attend des résultats.
In short, a man named Andrzej Borowski, who worked as an assistant to Professor Menard at the National Museums and Parks, was introduced. Andrzej is an adventure book lover and a big fan of an author named Adele. In his free time, Andrzej always takes the time to write letters to Adele. He always hoped to conquer Adele's heart. Unfortunately, Adele is uninterested in romance and always ignores Andrzej's letters. This left Andrzej feeling heartbroken and frustrated. To cut a long story short, Adele was caught busy on an adventure in Egypt to find the mummy of the famous physician Ramses II. Even though her actions were illegal, Adele was still desperate to carry out her adventure, even working with residents. With the help of the locals she worked with, Adele finally managed to find her way into the tomb. With her intelligence and knowledge, she quickly opened the lock at the tomb's entrance. Once inside the tomb, the two men who worked with Adele revealed their identities as thieves. They were after the treasures buried in the ancient tomb. They threatened and ordered Adele to come out. However, Adele casually threatened them by saying that without her presence, they would not be able to leave that place alive. Hearing that, the two thieves realized and decided to continue working with Adele. Sometime later, they finally found a room containing coffins and treasures. They cheered happily while collecting the treasure. Meanwhile, Adele was looking for a way to take the coffin away. Finally, Adele managed to find a way out. Meanwhile, the thieves' greed and impudence caused them to get killed by some accidentally activated traps. Adele was shocked to see it all happen so quickly. Even after that, they were raided by local security officers along with a professor named Dulavolt. Dulavolt demanded an explanation from Adele about her reason for entering the restricted area. Pressured, Adele finally revealed that she was looking for a mummy of a healer from Ramses II to cure her sister, who was now dying. Adele explained that according to a book written by Professor Joseph, even though the mummy was dead, it might still be resurrected. Hearing this made Doulevot laugh out loud because raising the dead was considered silly. Then, he ordered officers to arrest and execute Adele on the spot. However, before the execution, Adele asked for a final request to light a cigarette.
Pour ma santé, mais je prendrais bien une cigarette.
Doulevot granted it. Seeing them all off guard, Adele attacked Doulevot and immediately escaped from there with the coffin of the healer from Ramses II through a secret passage that she had previously managed to find. Meanwhile, Professor Menard and Andre were caught observing the recently hatched pterosaur eggs at the museum. Since neither knows the facts about the eggs hatching, Andre assumes a thief might have tampered with it. However, this theory was disputed by Menard, who saw the eggshells still attached to the amniotic membrane. This meant that the egg was broken from the inside, or in other words, the egg hatched on its own. Shortly after, Inspector Albert Caponi visited the museum to investigate the same issue. Unfortunately, Menard did not help him and instead hid the information he already knew. In addition, Menard also advised Inspector Albert to go to Professor Joseph, who was an expert in prehistoric creatures. At his home, Joseph was seen feeding the pterosaur he had been keeping. Not long after, he was surprised by Albert and his men who came knocking on his door. In a state of panic, Joseph immediately hid his pet behind a curtain. After that, he invited Albert to enter, and Albert quickly began to ask everything related to pterosaurs. Meanwhile, Adele, who managed to bring home the mummy of the best physician, Ramses II, immediately went home to ensure the condition of her sister Agath. After that, Adele was seen reading several letters from Andre. Not long after, Andre was there. However, again, Adele ignored him and told him to leave. She then found a news report from the newspaper about Joseph's death sentence. Knowing this, Adele immediately went to prison because she needed help from Joseph. Disguised as a lawyer, she finally managed to meet Joseph. After Adele revealed her purpose, Joseph explained that he could bring dead creatures back to life, just as he had done with pterosaurs. However, he emphasized that to do so, a soul needed to be connected, which was impossible in prison. Hence, Adele tried all means to free Joseph, including changing disguises. However, unfortunately, she always failed, and on the one occasion when she succeeded, Joseph had already been transferred because he was to be executed the next morning. Realizing that she couldn't do it all alone, Adele asked President Armand for help. Adele knew the president well as she used to be a journalist who first interviewed him after his inauguration. When she managed to meet the president, Adele immediately expressed her opinion about the bad situation that might happen when Joseph was executed. President Armand promised to reconsider and investigate. But, unfortunately, suddenly, a pterosaur came and attacked them. Seeing this, Adele quickly tried to save the president. However, the security forces considered her actions to be an attack on the president. As a result, Adele was arrested. Meanwhile, a French professional animal hunter was finally brought in directly from South Africa to catch a pterosaur elsewhere. A few days later, at the State Zoo, after extensive research and observation, Andre, with his intelligence, managed to invite the pterosaur to return and lay eggs there. He then showed Menard the success of his efforts. Shortly after that, due to the lack of strong evidence, Adele was finally released by the police. Adele immediately went home and bathed to forget her frustration for a moment. Besides being bored, Adele also happened to read the latest letter from Andre, which made her rush to see Andre. Adele was surprised when Andre's writing in the letter was not just a flirtation. Andre told her the results of his observations about pterosaurs. Now, Adele could see a pterosaur in person. In addition, she also began to gain confidence about all the things Joseph had said the other day. Adele immediately approached the pterosaur and tried to interact with the ancient animal. This was done in the hope of taming the pterosaur and planning to bring the pterosaur to save Joseph. The next day, Adele infiltrated the place where Joseph was being held. Luckily, her arrival was perfect as Joseph was about to be executed. Quickly, Adele took Joseph to the zoo, as it was the only safe place for now. Interestingly, Menard looked very happy when Joseph arrived because Joseph was his childhood friend. However, the joyful moment did not last long because, secretly, the hunter brought in by the States suddenly fired a shot that hit the pterosaur right in the chest. It hurt the pterosaur and caused Joseph to be injured because their souls were connected. Menard was enraged, took away the weapon, and chased the hunter away. Seeing Joseph's dying condition, Adele immediately took him home. Meanwhile, Andre was asked to take care of the pterosaur to keep it afloat. Sometime later, at Adele's house, Joseph, who was dying, suddenly unconsciously released his magic power, which made objects around him float. However, not long after, Joseph suddenly lost his powers and died. This, of course, made Adele very disappointed. However, not long after, Adele's mummy in the closet suddenly came back to life. This indicates that Joseph had used his powers to revive the mummy before his death. The mummy introduced itself as Patmosis. After that, Adele revealed all her goals to Patmosis. However, unfortunately, Adele had to swallow disappointment again when Patmosis mentioned that she had been wrong for bringing him. Patmosis was once a famous scientist and not a healer as Adele had expected. However, Patmosis also immediately told Adele that the healer she was referring to was in the coffin next to King Ramses II. Then, Adele revealed what happened to Agath so she could live between life and death like today. It was said that Adele and Agath were once in a tennis match. Finally, Adele hit the ball too hard so that it hit Agath's head. As a result, Agath fell, with her head landing on her hairpin, which fell first in a standing position. Since then, Agath has had to live her life on a mattress. Adele also felt very sorry. For the past 5 years, she has also been looking for ways to cure her sister. The story touched Patmosis. He then gave Adele a little happy news, where he suspected Joseph's magic power would likely have awakened people who had died within a radius of 2 kilometers. This distance included the area where the healer's mummy was located. Hearing this, Adele began to find a glimmer of hope. They both immediately rushed Agath to the museum where the mummies of Ramses II and his servants were displayed. After Patmosis put the museum guards to sleep with his magic, they immediately opened all the chests. And apparently, what Patmosis said was true. Professor Joseph's magic had successfully resurrected the mummies, including King Ramses II. Seeing the king's resurrection, Patmosis was happy and immediately asked permission to allow Nisibis to treat Agath. Ramses was angry that he had been brought back to life for such a trivial matter. Feeling her hopes slipping away, Adele cried and pleaded with him, explaining how overwhelmed she was by the guilt that kept haunting her. Besides, she had been struggling relentlessly for the past 5 years. Finally, Ramses was moved and allowed Nisibis to heal Agath. Within seconds, he took action on Agath. After enough, he made a magic potion to cover Agath's wounds and finally wrapped Agath's head with a bandage from one of the mummies. Not long after the treatment, Agath woke up as normal as ever. The two sisters embraced each other while crying emotionally. Meanwhile, Patmosis left to join King Ramses II to explore a new world that was very foreign to them. And so the movie ends.